Will an Asian national team ever win a World Cup? That's the question that you and I are probably all wondering when we lay down in our beds, pondering the meaning of life. Will this finally ever happen? In today's video, I'm gonna rank Asia's big 5 national teams, which I consider Saudi Arabia, Japan, South Korea, Iran, and Australia. Each national team's best World Cup finishes from worst to best. And per usual, as I seem to like to do in most videos that I do when it comes to rankings and all that good stuff, I'm gonna include an honorable mention because that's more content that you all enjoy, because I'm a people pleaser and I do everything for my subscribers. And you gotta make sure to stick to the end of this video, because after we look at all these Asian nations and their World Cup finishes, we all gotta discuss, will we finally see an Asian nation win a World Cup within these next couple of decades? Because that is what sparked this video idea. Let's compare, contrast, and see if there is an Asian national team to do it, which one has had the blueprint to show from previous World Cups that they can make it happen, to wave that Asian flag high and we can finally have an Asian national team win the World Cup. Because I think all of us who are Asian football fans would love to see that happen, and obviously specifically for their national team. So Iran, I'm talking to you. You guys be the first ones to make it happen. And as well, you all comment down below which national team you all think that can be. And if you are a big fan of Asian football, but more specifically the Iranian national team, you need to be subscribed to this channel, because this is the channel that you need to be at when it comes to that type of content. So make sure to subscribe. And if we could hit maybe like a like goal of over 100 likes on this video, I'll talk about 5 other Asian national teams and their best finishes at World Cups, so you all know what needs to happen to see that video. So to get started with our honorable mention, it is North Korea at the 1966 World Cup, where they finished in the quarterfinals. I know, massive shocker. You all probably didn't think North Korea was going to be making this video because I didn't mention them in the intro. But if I were to give an honorable mention, it would have to be North Korea. In the World Cup that was hosted in Middlesbrough, England, they were in a group with the Soviet Union, Chile, and Italy. They didn't start their campaign off at this World Cup well at all, losing to Soviet Union 3-0. And most people thought, okay, North Korea, they're done and dusted. They're not making out of the group. They played quite badly in that opening match. But they go on to tie against Chile in a comeback draw, and then went on to beat one of the tournament favorites, Italy, 1-0. It was absolute pandemonium. And back then in these type of World Cups, there was no round of 16. So they went on to the quarterfinals to face off against Portugal, where you all know that Portuguese icon legend card Eusebio that you all probably see in FIFA or FC whatever. He was playing with Portugal at that time. And within 25 minutes, North Korea were up 3-0 against Portugal. It was absurd. But then Eusebio, there's a reason why he has an icon card in FIFA, scored 4 goals and Portugal went on to win that match 5-3. They had an absolute Super Saiyan moment and destroyed North Korea after that 3rd goal went in. But what an insane tournament from North Korea. Football was absolute pandemonium back then. So I felt like that had to be the honorable mention to kick off this video. But now, starting at number 5, it is my beloved Iran at the 2018 World Cup and having a group stage exit. You know, I love this World Cup because it is definitely Iran's best ever finish at a World Cup, but at the same time, it was a little bit heartbreaking because this group of players deserved to have played in a round of 16 with how they played at this World Cup and with everything that kind of just unfolded in this campaign for them. They easily could have been a dark horse in this tournament, and we're kind of being tipped a little bit, if you know ball, if you know, you know, as a dark horse at this tournament. Because in qualifiers, Iran was the 3rd national team to qualify for this 2018 World Cup, behind host Russia and Brazil. Things were looking like maybe Iran could do something at this World Cup, but unfortunately they were in an extremely tough group with Morocco, Spain, and Portugal. Morocco, who were looking like one of the best teams in Africa at that time, Spain, who were the 2010 World Cup champs, and Portugal, who just recently won the 2016 Euros. On paper, Iran looked absolutely screwed, but in their opening match, they played pretty well against Morocco. Shout out to Ali Reza Baranvant, who's definitely Iran's best player at this World Cup campaign, and he 100% lives off this World Cup because he has really not been the same since the 2018 World Cup. Made a couple of big saves, and Iran probably did deserve to beat Morocco if they they just finished their chances, but for the first time and probably the last time, got a really good shade of luck with an own goal with one of the last kicks of the game to secure them 3 points against Morocco. Then they go on to play against Spain, where they honestly went toe-to-toe against them once they conceded with a weird shin goal by Diego Costa where he didn't even shoot it, just deflected off his foot and went in. We're really putting Spain to the sword and even scored, but it got overturned due to offsides, and it was absolute heartbreak because Iran easily probably could have gone a draw in that match. But potato, they go into their final match against Portugal where they pretty much needed to get a win unless results went their way, where Morocco somehow beat Spain, which wasn't the case. We're losing the game thanks to a wonder goal from Quaresma and outside the foot fashion, as he always loves to do. And Berenvent makes a historic penalty save on Ronaldo, which really galvanizes the team to push on. They get a late penalty, and then we all know Taremi last minute had the chance to secure Iran all 3 points, but absolutely folded like I do whenever I talk to a girl. And imagine the scenes if he did score that, because Iran would have finished top of the group above Spain and Portugal. And who knows what would have happened, as they would have faced off against Russia, and maybe they could have had that dark horse run like Morocco at the recent World Cup. But unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be, and that was definitely Iran's best World Cup finish. Then moving on to number 4 in this video, it is Saudi Arabia at the 1994 World Cup, where they finished in the round of 16. So this was the 94 US World Cup. In Saudi Arabia, were in a group which on paper looked really tough, with Morocco, Belgium, and the Netherlands. In their opening match, they lose to the Netherlands in quite heartbreaking fashion, where they probably thought they could have gone the draw in that game. But they didn't let that deter them, as they went on to beat Morocco and beat Belgium, which was probably one of the biggest upsets in the entirety of that tournament. And with that, even though there was a 3-way tie with 6 points with the Netherlands, Saudi Arabia, and Belgium, their goal differential just put them over the line. They were able to advance due to the tiebreaker to the round of 16, but they sadly got absolutely mollywopped against Sweden, where they lost 3-1, and it wasn't really much of a contest. Sadly, after this World Cup, we haven't quite seen a good World Cup campaign for Saudi Arabia. Obviously, in the previous 2022 World Cup, they did beat Argentina, but as I've said in numerous videos, that was the game that absolutely cursed them, because since beating Argentina, they just haven't been the same since. And now moving on to number 3, it is Australia at the 2006 World Cup, where they got knocked out in the round of 16. So the reason why I put Australia's finish in this World Cup above Saudi Arabia is because of these reasonings. So they were in a group with fellow Asian national team, Japan, Croatia, and Brazil. But at this time, Australia were considered Oceania, so they could have, Japan and Australia in the same World Cup group, because they weren't from the same confederation at the time. They went on a late thunderous roar against Japan, scoring 3 goals past the 80th minute to slap them up 3-1. Sadly lost against Brazil, but I don't think they really had the expectation to get anything out of that game. And then had a historic 2-2 draw against Croatia, which helped them finish second in this group. And I would say they finished second quite comfortably. They looked good throughout the group stage, and Australia could have been on the verge to have a historic dark horse run at the 2006 World Cup. But in the round of 16, they face off against inevitable World Cup champions, Italy. They were playing so well in that match. They were going toe-to-toe against them, and I would argue was probably Italy's toughest match in the entirety of that World Cup. Don't come at me about that, because I truly believe this. But in somewhat controversial fashion, which there's plenty of articles and people who have spoken about it, Italy got a last-minute penalty, like literally the last kick of the game, off of a controversial PK, where then Totti converts it and kind of just kills all Australian hopes at this tournament. But truly, it was a fantastic World Cup from Australia. They really put themselves on the world stage on that map, and it was in heartbreaking fashion why they couldn't go on to the quarterfinals. Then moving on to number 2, it is Japan at the recent 2022 World Cup, where they got knocked out in the round of 16. Japan have had a few round of 16 exits at World Cups. One other recent one was the 2018 one, where they went toe-to-toe against Belgium, but sadly collapsed due to a late Lukaku goal, a great comeback from Belgium. But I feel like this World Cup was probably their best one. Japan were in a group with two World Cup contenders in Spain and Germany, and as well a pretty good team from CONCACAF, Costa Rica. I was actually, funnily enough, at Japan's opening match against Germany, where they came out and pretty much stamped themselves at this World Cup by beating Germany 2-1, coming back from 1-0 down and having a historic match to start off their World Cup campaign. But then in their second group stage match against Costa Rica, where probably many thought, okay, this will be the game where Japan get all 6 points, wrap themselves up for automatic qualification to the knockout rounds, but instead surprisingly fumble against a Costa Rican squad that just got slapped up by Spain. An ongoing topic I've discussed on this channel is Moriyasu, man. This guy can come out with the absolute most fire tactics against the top dogs in the world of football, but then I feel like overthinks it against lesser or on the same par opponents. It makes no sense. And then in their final group stage match, where pretty much they needed to get some sort of result in this game against Spain, they go out and win this game, which with that win, they topped the group over Spain and Germany. But unfortunately for them, they were up against another tournament favorite in Croatia in the round of 16, where they went up 1-0 in that match, but weren't able to hold on or to capitalize and extend their lead. And Croatia, as they did throughout their entire 2022 World Cup campaign, clawed themselves back into it, took it to a penalty shootout, and Japan really folded in that penalty shootout. If they just knew how to be composed in a penalty shootout, who knows, they could have made it to the quarterfinals. But moving on to number 1, it is South Korea at the 2002 World Cup. So this World Cup was hosted by Japan and South Korea. There was already a lot of controversy surrounding them hosting the World Cup because this was the first time Asian nations were hosting a World Cup. A lot of people felt like FIFA just wanted to let them host it due to money, due to long-term investments, and just things like that. Very similar things to the controversies behind Qatar hosting the 2022 World Cup, exiting at the semifinals and finishing in 4th place. There is a lot of controversy surrounding South Korea and the 2002 World Cup. For many of you that may not know the story, come here, listen up, listen very clearly, because there is a lot to unwrap when it comes to this World Cup finish. Unlike for a lot of these other national teams that I've spoken about, like how Australia got hard done by, Iran got hard done by, South Korea got the biggest rub of the green, probably of any national team, and sucked up all the luck that all the other national teams maybe needed at World Cups at this World Cup to make it as far as the semifinals and taking out many World Cup favorites in the process. It was absolutely crazy. So South Korea were in a group with Poland, the USA, and Portugal. In their opening match, they beat Poland quite comfortably 2-0, then drew against the USA, who were probably their easiest opponents in this group 1-1, but then somehow stunned tournament favorites Portugal and won 1-0. But that is kind of where the controversy begins. I don't think this is nearly as controversial as the next upcoming games we're going to talk about, but a lot of people and reporters have spoken about how it felt like the referee was letting a lot slide in this game and not calling a lot of fouls in Portugal's favor at all, and every call seemed like it was going in South Korea's favor. And Portugal, I believe, got 2 red cards in this match. But as I said, I think it was the least controversial from the bunch of games that happened. So then went on to South Korea's round of 16 match against Italy, who looked like tournament favorites and could go on to win this World Cup. And South Korea won this game in extra time against Italy, and it shocked the whole footballing world. But not necessarily just because South Korea won this game, but all the controversy surrounding it. Like in the previous match against Portugal, there was a lot of calls that went in South Korea's favor, a goal that was disallowed for offsides, which was a totally legitimate goal, and again, another red card given to the opposing team of South Korea, and Italy were down to 10 men in this game. So the controversy continued, and it did not stop in their next upcoming match in the semifinals against Spain. Again, another national team that was looking like could go on to win this World Cup. It gets even worse for this match because, like I said in the Italy game, they scored a goal that was deemed offsides, but it was clearly not offsides. Spain scored 2 legitimate goals that were taken back due to a quote-unquote foul during the free kick, which there wasn't any, and the ball going out of play, wherein it clearly did not go out of play. And Spain would eventually go on to lose that game in penalties, where South Korea's goalkeeper was so far off his line for one of the saves, and they went on to the semifinals of the World Cup. And there was a whole scandal surrounding South Korea's wins in the round of 16 and in the quarterfinals. FIFA were under scrutiny about it, but nothing crazy happened in their semifinal match against Germany. Michael Ballack scored the goal, which knocked out South Korea. And then in their third place match, they lost to Turkey in quite a thrilling game where it ended 3-2 for Turkey. But there was a lot of favoritism, rub of the green, however you want to put it, for South Korea at this World Cup. But it was a big boom for Asian football altogether. But I will say it kind of takes back from this dark horse run from South Korea because of all that controversy surrounding their matches against the bigger opposition. And as I said, all this luck and favoritism South Korea got at this World Cup, I think just got taken away for any other Asian national team in future World Cups. If I were to use my prediction god status to see which national team can win a World Cup, can make it to a World Cup final, my best guess would be definitely Iran. I'm just kidding. I'm honestly not totally sure. If I were to go on paper, probably Japan. But who knows? Asian football is unpredictable. There's a lot of upcoming Asian national teams from Indonesia, Uzbekistan, who could go on and make history with these new expanded World Cups. There's a lot of opportunity for an Asian national team to make it happen. It doesn't even have to be these top 5 big dog Asian national teams that we mentioned in this video. It could be any of them. So yeah, boys and girls, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Which national team could you guys see make history for Asian football and go on to win a World Cup? What was your guys' thoughts on these World Cup runs that we talked about in this video? As I said, if you guys want to see me do another video talking about other Asian national teams' best World Cup finishes, make sure to get over 100 likes on this video and I will make it happen. And if you guys are a big fan of this type of content, make sure to go check out this video next, where I made Asia's all-time best 11 with some historic players from South Korea, Japan, Iran, you name it. Make sure to go check out that video next. But boys and girls, I hope y'all have a lovely day.